The following presentation will bring to life the very promise of God in Genesis 12:3 in ways far beyond what you may be aware of throughout history. I will bless those who bless you, and I will curse him who curses you. First we begin to a time before God uttered these words to Abraham. Because it is important to see that Abraham would become the father of the Semitic line that would be known as the Hebrews, God's chosen people. You see, when we look back at the time of the Tower of Babel, when the descendants of Shem, Ham, and Japheth all settled as one people in the land of Shinar, when the people had sinned, wanting to build a tower that would reach the heavens to challenge God's supremacy, God chose to scatter the 70 people groups to their own nations across the earth and given their own languages. Here is where people fail to notice that of all the 70 groups that were scattered away from their home in Shinar and the land of Mesopotamia, the one group that was allowed to stay there was the Shemite nation of Eber, of whom we get the name Hebrew. We know this because it would be Eber's descendant Abraham who would be living in this area that the Bible later refers to as Chaldea. This we can see that God is already favoring this people group that would give rise to Abraham and later the chosen people of Israel. The blessings was already at work far before Abraham was even born. Then, beyond Abraham, we see that blessing working right through the generations. You see, Assyria, Babylon, Persia, Greece, Rome, even the greatest kingdoms cannot escape the laws of God's promise in history. It is a 4,000-year-old promise at work. Let us show you just a few. In the second millennium BC, the world's preeminent empire is Egypt. They were a blessed nation that would rule the region for centuries until they oppressed the children of Abraham. So according to the laws of God's promise in Genesis 12:3, the Egyptian empire suddenly collapses once the Jewish people escape the oppression of slavery, and it would never rise to such prominence again. We see the law at work again in the modern age. The Ottoman Empire attempted to block the Jewish people from returning to the land, as we've seen in the Prophecies Uncovered series in the first few episodes. The empire collapsed and was taken over by the British, who allowed the Jews to begin returning to the land. Britain would be a blessed empire for centuries. They would give refuge to the Jewish people both in the land of Judea as well as in Britain. So Britain had become an exalted empire, expanding the globe in prosperity. But then everything changes. Britain, under new leadership, reverses their position and turns against the Jewish refugees fleeing the Holocaust. The greatest empire of the world suddenly collapses to virtually nothing, diminished to a small island nation. In the 20th century, we began to see the greatest refuge and protector of the Jewish people, America. This period saw a most blessed, prosperous, and powerful nation on earth. Right through World War II, America fought for the Jewish people, battling the Third Reich in Europe to stop their brutal genocide and even expansion across the continent. However, in recent years, things began to change for America. As we've seen in later episodes in Prophecies Uncovered, America began to turn away from God, embracing gay marriage and the legalization of killing the unborn. Thus, America is on the brink of total collapse. Yet it hasn't happened yet. Why? They are still supporting Israel, and so God is holding them up. This is a testament of how strong God's promise in Genesis 12:3 is. The covenant is still in effect, not only towards the world's nations and empires, but also to you, to me, to anyone who chooses to either support and bless God's people, and to those who stand against them. Therefore, if this covenant determined the rise and fall of kingdoms and empires, wouldn't you think that tells us something about us as individuals? God is real, faithful, and more powerful than history itself. When He gives His word, believe it, and know that His love for His people, including you, is so great that He will even move empires for their sake. And He will lift you up for His sake too. And this brings us another mystery that promises to empower you in your walk with Him. In an army, who has the most authority? It is the general. He submits to no other rank, but exercises authority over every other rank. Now, who has the least authority? It is the private. The private is the opposite. He submits to all other ranks and exercises no authority over any other. But there is a time when the private exercises the same authority as a general. It is when the private is carrying out an assignment given to him by the general. When a private carries out such a directive, an errand, a mission, or any other order given to him directly, then with regard to that directive, the private carries the general's authority. When that happens, every other soldier, every rank, every captain, every colonel must yield to him in the fulfilling of his assignment. Before him, every gate must be opened and a way made for him to do it. Now let's look at the ultimate example in this authority. In all the universe and beyond, who has all authority? God. Yahweh is the ultimate general. And who has the least authority? It is us, mankind. So when we, the privates, bear the authority of the general as Christians in our walk with Him, we regularly need to carry out assignments given to us by God to carry out His mission. If you live outside the will of God, you will act against God's will. You will be the weakest with no authority and will only live a life of sin, treason against God, and going against the general's commands is treason against him, which leads to serious consequences. But if we, as privates, live according to His will, His assignments, we are given authority and power to carry out these holy directives. And that means that every person, every rank under the heavens, including the demonic realm, will have to yield to you. Every gate must be opened, and every way must be made for you to carry out that holy assignment. So, from this day forward, make it your aim to live your life wholly and fully in the will of God. Find your mission and fulfill it. When you pray, command to every other rank around you to yield to God's authority, because you are on a holy mission, whatever that mission may be. Take care. God bless. Love you always.